And welcome to the Filmstein Podcast, the podcast where we are challenged with trying to articulate a love for art and storytelling. Today I am joined by my cryptid friend, Lucy.
Hello, everyone.
I'm glad everybody could join us today. Thank you very much for being here. Because today we will be talking about Isaiah Saxton's 2025 release, The Legend of Ochi. And oh boy, do I have the moderate excitement to talk about this movie today. There is a undeniable style and love for the craft, the production, all over this film. There's no doubt about it. This film is such a great case study of style over substance. And I will say the singular movie this reminds me the most of is I Saw the TV Glow. And I think all of the problems I have with Ochi are in a similar camp as with the film I Saw the TV Glow. The Legend of Ochi kind of rides this line of suggesting character over characterizing. It never allows the chance for the actors to perform, for the characters to breathe, for dynamics to develop. It obviously relies entirely on the colorization, cinematography, the score, even the editing. There are some slick things happening in this film. We definitely have some of the ingredients for a competent movie. We have this suggestion of Willem Dafoe's character, Maxim, the father of the girl Yuri, having some sort of unspoken issues. She lives in the shadow of this adopted son, this son that Maxim never had, Petro, Finn Wolfhard's character. And it's not very much. They don't give us very much setup with their relationship. There is this emphasis on the kind of unspoken pain of not feeling maybe loved by a parent. But then we forget that point for the rest of the movie until the very end, where Maxim obviously has his resignation moment in front of the Ochis and whatnot. But then maybe halfway through, we get shoved right down our throat. Yuri's mom, Dasha, says something to the extent of, you can't return a baby bird to their parents because of the human stank on it. And then she has this more or less over-the-top moment of realizing that she is that rejecting parent, and it's bad. But this is then the motivation for Dasha to chase Yuri alongside, parallel, not hand in hand with Maxim, and it's just really awkward. Meanwhile, we are also challenged with Maxim and his little platoon of boys and Yuri going after the Ochi, maybe somehow trying to suggest man's relationship with nature and what we don't understand. Again, it's less than a half measure. It ends on the biggest cop-out of, aren't they beautiful? They communicate, they have a language, they're compassionate, they're tolerant. I feel like we wasted the entire runtime on beauty, beautiful cinematography, beautiful coloring, some really great action sequences, movement sequences. Helena Zengel gave an especially bad performance. I couldn't believe this is the delivery that they went with. And as far as worse scenes, I will have to say that the separation of Petro and Yuri in the house when she's about to leave with the Ochi was especially bad. That exchange, that delivery was rough. I was looking forward to The Legend of Ochi. And as far as momentum of getting through the film, Willem Dafoe is all there is to offer here. But someone like that makes the bad look worse. So I don't know, man. I'm very curious what you think of The Legend of Ochi. What do you think?
I think we're on exactly the same page. This movie was okay. It was very moody, very aesthetic, right? We like to toss that word around. It focused on the mood and the tone more than anything. I like what you said, style over substance. Visually, you're right, it's very appealing. The color choice, the lighting, the composition, the overall cinematography, very nice. Very dreamlike, very otherworldly. The set designs were pretty awesome. everything from her room to their house to that store. That store was pretty cool. To the mom's cabin. Very awesome. They felt lived in. They felt lore-like, almost fairy tale-like. The forest. It was pretty creative. And for something with so much visual appeal, we didn't get any kind of world building because there was a lot of weirdness to this film, like the Ochi, like the place where they live. I couldn't really quite tell what time and place we were in, but then we get little glimpses of her room having an aquarium or a little tank or whatever thing she kept her caterpillars in. That's pretty modern. We get the store, all that candy, pretty modern. But then the people inside it are kind of weird. So there's something going on in this world that we don't elaborate on. And my problem with these types of movies, these moody ones, and The Legend of Ochi is no exception, is the slower pacing. But specifically that lingering that happens. Like, okay, I get it. Yuri looks so eccentric and stylish with her yellow jacket and her red backpack against that dark green forest with the fog and everything around her. But there needs to be a point to that style, that weirdness, that lingering. Oftentimes, the point of this type of lingering is to give the audience some sort of anxiety. And I like your example of I saw the TV glow, because that movie made me feel nothing but anxiety. And that was a point to that film. But here, it just felt off and unnecessary. Like you said, the relationships, the characters were definitely not developed. The dynamics were not developed. The character dynamics were not developed. Yuri, our main character, felt way too foreign to me. And I don't think she was supposed to feel foreign to me the entire time of the film, but it made me not emotionally invested, especially in her relationship with the baby Ochi. And that was probably the thing I was looking forward to the most. You see these other types of movies where there's a little kid and a creature, whether it's an animal or a made-up creature, and they develop these very beautiful relationships, and that's the crux of the film, that relationship they build. And that's what's going to tear your heart out when she returns him to where he belongs, but it doesn't.
But they learned how to communicate with each other.
Don't even get me started on that communication. She's not an unreliable character. There's nothing hinted to us that we shouldn't trust her or be suspicious of her, but we don't get any insight into the type of person she is and why we should care. As for the story elements, I'm right there with you. I was confused on the whole you can't return a baby bird back to its parents thing after a human has touched it. I got the vibes that this was a rebellion type of story, but it wasn't clear cut. And then we have the whole aspect of her saving something, her saving that baby Ochi. And I guess with that narrative, it's pretty clear. She finds Ochi. She's a compassionate girl, wants to save him, wants to give him back no matter what anyone tells her, wants to help him find his home. And I guess on paper, the stakes are high enough to return this baby Ochi to its family. But man, am I missing that emotion. The characters felt so emotionally disconnected from each other. What they portrayed on screen made me feel emotionally disconnected from them. And this is a movie where I thought I would feel it, especially with an injured little baby Ochi, a girl who seems so compassionate. Willem Dafoe's character, so compassionate. The mom, I thought we were going to get something there because she's alive, but she's no longer with them. Why? And they build up these questions for us to be asking and don't deliver on them. I do love this idea of children representing the start of something new. Children often represent something so innocent and bringing new perspective into the world. And we sort of get this here because it's beautiful what we can accomplish with a new perspective switch, right? We get this at the end, even if it was forced. The baby Ochi reunites with its family. Yuri reunites with hers. Even Petro has this redemption moment, but it was all very off. It was all very weird. None of it hit me. I didn't feel that moment that I'm sure I was supposed to feel. I thought it was just ridiculous when the mom came out playing her little flute. And I'm really not sure I understood the overall message of the film.
Yeah, I think Isaiah here has a big mess on his hands. One thing I saw the TV glow does really right is how tight its focus is on identity and how vague that can just be for an individual and in the movie itself. And it works on some level. We have almost the antithesis of that here in The Legend of Ochi, because I think you're hitting the nail on the head here with a necessity for some kind of definition of relationship with these characters, because it's so predicated on that parental relationship. We should have been hit over the head with Yuri is Maxim's kid, but he couldn't care less to do anything with her. He prefers Petro or whatever other kid. We just need to define their inability to connect.
Right. When he tells her, oh, I listened to that band, that song, whatever it was called, to kind of let her know that, oh, I understand you a little bit better now after listening to that. I didn't even know there was a misunderstanding.
There was a poster in her room. In a movie like I Saw the TV Glow, it's a very amorphous, hard thing to articulate. Articulating a relationship between a father and a daughter is not a difficult thing. In fact, it's so easy you can show us. You don't need to describe it in any philosophical way. But that also might be one of these, because we do need to define that relationship so we can define our connection to these characters. Especially if you're going to land on Maxim's resignation of realizing that he's sort of less than even an Ochi. An Ochi can connect with their kid. Why can't I? And especially when the whole film is Maxim chasing Yuri. We have to accelerate this relationship in the intro to get any kind of substantial payoff. It's not a very interpretable idea. There is no philosophy when dealing with someone who is hurt by their parent. And what's really crazy is they come at it from both angles, the dad and the mom. Because halfway through, like I said earlier, they fold the mom in on a similar note to Maxim just to justify her ability to speak with the Ochi. Ultimately, it's so half-hearted.
Yeah, I like the idea that she got bit by the Ochi, and that's why she could talk to him, more than because I taught you as a young kid.
Yeah, I'm with you. Maybe we needed something like Yuri got bit, and it was drug-like, venom-like, and she was a little high or delusional, and it was kind of not very clear if she was actually speaking with the Ochi, and it was just kind of an audience problem at that point. Because really, to that point, the worst delivered on theme is our relationship with nature, with these things that we do not understand. And Yuri being able to talk and be that bridge between the Ochi is obviously that effort to make some kind of acknowledgement of not underestimating and especially respecting critters, other critters than yourselves.
No, definitely. And for one of the main points of the movie being that there's also a nonverbal mutual feeling that we all feel, and I guess that's symbolically expressed through their calls or song that the mom plays. We lack that emotion in the entire film. How are you going to have a film about the boundaries or lack of boundaries that feelings can have and not have any feelings in your movie? The only thing that made me feel anything in this movie was when the Ochi was hurt. And I like that. If we could have had more of that innate response that the audience can have towards a creature or Yuri or a parental fight or a rebellion, that would have been so much better. We can connect with those things. We can be emotional towards those things. We can feel those things without the film having to explain to us what we're supposed to feel.
I mean, at this point in this movie, just explain it. Give me anything. I was going to say the only point I had a milligram of emotion was when Maxim had his resignation. It's just because Willem Dafoe is excellent. And I was just like, man, I wish this meant something, you know? Because it really is just a father chasing his daughter. We don't know about their relationship. We get, obviously, that it's a little bit estranged, but we piece that together throughout the film in a very non-satisfying way because we don't know anything about their relationship. They go on a hunt, they come back. It's hard to get even a gauge of what's going on here.
No, that's very well said, because we can't confuse what's going on with the characters with, oh, the characters just don't understand each other. There's a misunderstanding going on. And I could see a misunderstanding theme being part of the overall theme, right? There's a misunderstanding between the humans and the Ochis. There's a misunderstanding between Yuri and her parents, her stepbrother. But that misunderstanding isn't addressed as a misunderstanding. It's just a confusion on the audience.
The lack of setup and half measures even go as far as just dropping us in on the Ochi. We immediately are hunting the Ochi. We have no setup to the Ochi. We get a little bit of the townsfolk being concerned about them, I guess, and hearing them in the night. But why are they scared? What is the misunderstanding there? We should cut the mom sections out completely.
Agree.
And add all that runtime to the beginning and establish the Ochi, establish the relationships, characterize Yuri, obviously, establish this rebelliousness, if you want to call it that, or this opposition she has with Maxim and his ideals, his desire to scare off, hunt Ochi.
Right, and that might be one of the more important ones. Establish Maxim, establish his character, because why on earth does he round up little boys from this town, colony, whatever, and train them to hunt the Ochi? Why specifically the boys? Is it a masculinity thing?
Mm-hmm.
He's got some ideals there that you're right.
And it's weird.
It's weird.
He dresses up in like World War I general outfits. It's weird.
He's a weird guy. But I'm 100% in agreement. Get rid of everything with the mom. She made no sense. Her relationship with Yuri made no sense. She was just a pit stop for Yuri to get cured. Which, in my version of this, I didn't even want Yuri to get cured, because to me, that's how she is able to communicate with the Ochi.
Yeah, what if she is intoxicated up to the point where she finds the Ochi and she's able to return the baby Ochi, and somehow the Ochi are able to save her, and the dad sees that, and it's never very clear whether she can actually talk to the Ochi or not, because it doesn't matter.
Because feelings are there, and she felt it.
Have some kind of emphasis on the unspoken nature of feelings, on the unspoken nature of love and parental connection.
There, you fixed it.
But instead we have this mom who offers the baby bird idea, and then 5, 6, 7 minutes later realizes that she is the problem in that aphorism. Yet the Ochi accept the young Ochi, like, you know, like, whatever, where you been, man? But I will agree with you, like I was saying earlier, the visuals of this movie are awesome, and it just makes the rest of it that much harder to kind of digest. The kind of merge between old and new, especially when Yuri is describing the town and how the camera kind of pans over and then there's a car all of a sudden. It's cool. It's meaningless. They don't ask any questions of the modern effect on nature and how the old way was different or better.
That's a great point, because I thought that's what the mom was going to answer. I thought the mom was going to be some sort of light to that bridge between humans and nature. That was going to teach Yuri maybe about it or something along those lines, but maybe that's where we were going to find out that's why she left the dad.
Sure, and did deliver on some of that point, but through her being able to communicate with the Ochi, I think. I think that's where they tried to stuff that in, and it
didn't land.
doesn't work.
And I'm kind of glad we had this conversation today because I couldn't quite pinpoint on why I didn't feel what I should have felt in this movie. And it's a lot of the story elements because I thought my initial problem was the lack of dialogue or minimal dialogue. And I was struggling with, am I just a person that relies heavily on dialogue to move me? I don't know.
I mean, yes and no, right? It's a little bit of column A and column B. You need good writing, but you also need good performances. And one can outweigh the other depending on who you're dealing with, depending on what kind of movie they're in, right? We obviously needed a much stronger performer out of a Yuri here. Helena Zengel was terrible in this. In a movie where she needed to be top notch. She needed to stand her own against a Willem Dafoe.
No, that's a fair point. Because how did last year's release, Flow, a movie with no dialogue, no humans, just a cat and a capybara and some other gang members, make me so emotional without dialogue, without all this style and mood? And this movie has that sort of effect written all over it. It just completely missed it.
The Legend of Ochi screams like that early draft where you have all these fun ideas that just don't quite connect. So you gotta start making cuts because it's a little too big for its britches, ultimately.
So is this Isaiah's debut film?
I believe so. I believe he was a music video director before this, and among short films too. Of course, it's not necessary, but when you start breaking the rules, there needs to be good reason why. But as a launching point, everything kind of needs to add and fold in on itself to a central point and not get in the way, not distract. And outside of kind of direction problems we have here with the characterization, the story beats themselves are pretty out of whack. And frankly, I'm surprised this film was made in the fashion it was, with this kind of budget, with this kind of artistry, with the likes of a Willem Dafoe or even Finn. It's an extraordinarily underbaked film that had some juice. There's no doubt about it.
Has some juice.
All right, man. Well, thank you very much for watching this film and talking about it here today.
You're welcome.
Do you have a budget guess?
I'm going with 10 mil. Now knowing this is a debut film, I don't know if I should have gone lower.
Well, it says here that it was $10 million.
Ooh, right on the money.
And it went on to make $4.7 million. I think it had a very limited release.
Makes sense.
And over on Letterboxd with 30,000 people, they weighed in at a 3.0.
Very average. I think I'm going with a 2.5. I haven't quite decided where I want to land because, like you said, this movie definitely had something. It had some juice. The story elements weren't clear, but they were there. It definitely missed on some of the symbolism and parallels it could have drawn because there were many opportunities to expand on that. But then the whole story element with the mom was just, it was just not great. But then when you give the cinematography a 10 out of 10, but then the cinematography had nothing to do with what the story was trying to tell us, I don't know. I'm just very confused on how to go about giving this a score. And most of the time I base my scores on how it made me feel. So I guess I might be leaning more towards a 2 because I didn't feel anything watching this movie. Or got no message. Got no so what.
Yeah, without the awesome coloring and the Willem Dafoe and the cinematography and the puppetry, of course, this would probably be a 1. But with these elements, I think it's a solid 1.5. Because I kind of disagree. I don't think those elements of relationship and hurt and everything else we've just talked about are all that included. They are just slightly suggested. There seems to be a little bit of an emphasis on that vagueness, that interpretation. And like I was kind of saying, this is not a story of vagueness. This is not a story of identity. This is not a story of just pain.
But because it's not a story of those things, because you can't have that vagueness in those types of ideas, it's gotta be the other, right? Yeah, that's an excellent debate there. The movie definitely felt more surreal and ethereal to suggest what you're saying. So I don't know.
No, exactly. It doesn't land on a wider problem or question than what it's initially suggesting, what it's initially offering with Yuri and Maxim. It's just, okay, you know?
Yeah.
It just doesn't go anywhere. But yeah, 1.5 will do. But yeah, man, thank you very much again, and thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Filmistines. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Remember, we post every Wednesday and Friday on all of the free feeds like YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, and Patreon. Our next episode will be on the animated film Song of the Sea, so please look forward to that. And remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come subscribe, come write in, come request a film. We appreciate all the support. Thank you guys very much. But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of The Filmistines. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and gained some new insights and perspectives on the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon at patreon.com/filmistines. And follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching and keep loving the magic of movies. This is the Filmistines, signing off.